I was giving birth on the roadside when my billionaire husband drove by and splashed mud on me. That one moment destroyed everything I thought I knew about love. My name is Anna, and once I was the happiest woman in the world, or at least I thought I was. I grew up in an orphanage, never knowing what it felt like to have a family. I worked at a small cafe, serving coffee to people who barely looked me in the eye. My life was simple, but inside, I always dreamed of something more. Someone who would finally see me, love me, and never leave. And then, one rainy morning, I met Ryan. He walked into the cafe in a black suit, looking like he'd stepped straight out of a dream. I was nervous, my hands shaking, and as fate would have it, I spilled hot coffee all over his sleeve. I gasped, apologizing again and again, grabbing tissues in panic. But instead of yelling, he smiled and said, "Maybe this is how destiny introduces us." I laughed nervously, not realizing those words would change my life forever. From that day, he started coming to the cafe every morning, sitting by the window, ordering the same latte and smiling whenever I walked by. Slowly, he began talking about his work, his life, his loneliness. He was a billionaire, the city's most eligible bachelor, but behind that confidence, I saw sadness in his eyes. Maybe that's why I let myself fall. He made me feel special, seen, loved. When he asked me out, I said yes. When he told me he wanted to take care of me, I believed him. Within months, we were inseparable. He took me to dinners I could never afford, showed me a world I had only seen in magazines. And then one night, standing under the cafe's flickering sign, he knelt down and asked me to marry him. I remember the way everyone clapped, how my hands trembled as I said yes. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Our wedding was a fairy tale. White roses, golden chandeliers, a sea of people I didn't know but who all smiled as if they did. I thought I was the luckiest woman alive. But fairy tales never show you what happens after happily ever after. At first, our marriage was perfect. He was sweet, attentive, showering me with gifts and affection. Every morning, I woke up next to him, believing that love had finally found me. But then little things began to change. He stopped smiling as much. Stopped talking about his day, stopped looking me in the eyes. He became distant, buried in his work, his phone, his endless meetings. I tried to understand, to give him space. But every time I reached out, he pulled away a little more. One night, I caught a faint trace of perfume on his jacket, one I didn't wear. My heart dropped, but I told myself it was business. I didn't want to believe that the man who once promised me forever could already be slipping away. Then one morning, everything changed. I found out I was pregnant. I ran to tell him, expecting joy, maybe even tears. But when I showed him the test, his face froze. "Now?" he said quietly, as if I'd done something wrong. "Ryan, it's our baby," I whispered. He turned away, rubbing his temples. "This isn't the right time, Anna. I have too much going on." "We're not ready." I stood there, speechless, clutching the test. I thought he'd hug me, reassure me, tell me everything would be okay, but instead, he walked out of the room. That was the moment a small crack appeared in my heart, one that would soon shatter into a million pieces. Days passed, and his distance grew colder. He stopped coming home some nights. When I called, his phone went unanswered. When I asked his secretary, she said he was traveling. But deep down I knew something was wrong. One night I waited for him by the window until sunrise, staring at the empty driveway, praying I was just overthinking. But he didn't come. I sat there feeling the weight of silence press down on me. The next morning, his mother arrived unannounced. She had always disapproved of me, calling me the charity case. She sat across from me and said coldly, "You should have known this wouldn't last. You're not from his world." I tried to defend myself, saying, "He chose me. We love each other." But she only smirked. "Do you really think love is enough?" Those words haunted me. As my belly began to grow, I stopped seeing Ryan altogether. The mansion that once felt like heaven now felt like a prison. Every night I'd talk to the baby inside me, whispering, "Your father loves us. He's just busy." But even as I said it, I didn't believe it anymore. My reflection became unrecognizable. Tired eyes, swollen cheeks, forced smiles. I started wondering if maybe I'd been living in a dream, one that was never mine to keep. Then one evening, I heard him come home after weeks. I ran to the door, tears in my eyes, calling his name. But when he looked at me, there was no warmth, only emptiness. "Where were you?" I cried. "Do you even care that I'm carrying your child?" He didn't answer. He just walked past me into the study and shut the door. I stood there shaking, feeling the life drain from me. That was the night I realized love isn't something you beg for. It's something freely given. And once it's gone, no amount of tears can bring it back. I went to bed alone, holding my stomach, whispering, "We'll be okay, my baby, even if it's just us." But I had no idea how much more pain fate still had in store for me. The next morning felt colder than ever. The air in the mansion was heavy, like even the walls knew something was ending. I walked downstairs, hoping to find Ryan at the table, sipping his coffee like before, but his chair was empty. Instead, I found a single envelope lying near the vase. My heart raced as I picked it up. Inside was a short letter written in his handwriting. "You're not the woman I thought you were. Leave before I return." That was it. No explanation, no apology, just those cruel words. My hands trembled as I reread them, hoping I'd misunderstood, but deep down, I knew it was real. He didn't want me anymore. I rushed to his office, but the receptionist said, "Mr. Ryan is traveling abroad. He left no message for you." Traveling? Without telling me? Without a goodbye? My calls stopped going through. His number was blocked. I even went to his mother's house, begging her to explain. But she looked at me with the same cold eyes and said, "You were never part of our world. Anna, it's better you leave quietly." I fell to my knees, clutching my belly, begging, "Please, just tell me why." But she turned away, shutting the door. That's when I realized I truly had no one. No family, no home, no money. The next day, when I tried to buy food, my card declined. My bank account was frozen. I had nothing but the clothes I was wearing and a few dollars in cash. My stomach tightened, not from hunger, but from fear. I was 7 months pregnant, alone, and abandoned by the man I'd given my soul to. That night, I packed a small bag, a few clothes, the ultrasound photo, and the wedding ring I could no longer bear to wear. I walked out of that mansion without looking back. The sky was gray and the air smelled like rain. As I stepped into the street, thunder roared in the distance, echoing the storm inside me. I didn't know where I was going. I just kept walking, my shoes soaked in puddles, the cold wind biting my skin. I whispered to my unborn babies, "Mama's here. Don't worry. We'll find a way." Hours passed. The rain turned heavier. My vision blurred from exhaustion. Then suddenly pain shot through my body. It was sharp, deep, and unbearable. My knees buckled. I fell to the muddy road, gasping. The pain came again, contractions. Too early, too soon. I cried out for help, but no one stopped. Cars rushed by, splashing water. My cries mixed with thunder. "Please, somebody help!" I screamed, but the city was heartless. Then, through the curtain of rain, I saw it. A sleek black limousine, headlights glowing like hope. My heart leapt. I knew that car. Ryan's car. My hands shook as I waved desperately. "Ryan, please stop!" The car slowed down. For a brief second, I saw his face through the tinted glass. Our eyes met. I saw recognition flicker, then hesitation. I whispered his name again, "Ryan." But just as quickly, the window rolled up. The car accelerated, and a wave of muddy water splashed across my face, soaking me completely. I fell backward, clutching my stomach, screaming, "Please, don't leave me!" But he was gone. My breath grew shallow. Pain tore through me again. I knew I couldn't hold on much longer. The world started spinning. I whispered weakly to my babies, "Stay with me. Please!" Then darkness swallowed everything. The last sound I heard was the distant roar of thunder and the faint cry of rain hitting the ground. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't on the road anymore. I was lying on a rough wooden bed inside a small hut. My body ached, but something felt different, lighter. My hands instinctively reached for my belly. It was flat. Panic surged through me. "My babies!" I screamed. Then I heard a gentle voice. "Hush, child. They're safe." I turned my head and saw an old woman sitting beside me, her eyes soft and kind. In her arms were 2 tiny bundles wrapped in cloth. "You have 2 little angels," she whispered with a smile. Tears streamed down my face as she handed them to me. My hands shook as I touched their tiny fingers. 1 boy, 1 girl. They were so small, so perfect, their little chests rising and falling softly. "Liam," Lily, I whispered. The old woman smiled. Beautiful names. I looked at her through tears. Who are you? She replied softly. My name's Grace. I found you by the roadside, half dead, lying in the rain. I brought you here. I couldn't speak. My throat closed from emotion. I whispered. You saved us? She shook her head. No, child. You saved them. You refused to give up. I cried harder, clutching my babies close, feeling their warmth against my skin. That night I sat awake, watching them sleep. The roof leaked, the wind howled, but in that tiny hut, surrounded by nothing, I felt more love than I ever did in the mansion. I realized then that Ryan had taken my wealth, my comfort, my pride, but not my purpose. My twins were my new reason to live. I promised them, Mama will never let you suffer. No matter what happens, we'll survive. We'll build a new life. Even if the world forgets us, we'll never forget each other. Grace sat beside me, handing me a bowl of warm soup and said, Life has a strange way of showing us who truly cares. I looked at my newborns, tears still streaming down my cheeks, and whispered, then maybe losing everything was the only way to find what really matters. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. My body healed, but my heart carried wounds that time refused to close. In Grace's small hut, life was simple but harsh. The roof leaked every time it rained, and we often went to bed with nothing but water and bread. Still, every night when I watched Liam and Lily sleeping beside me, I felt a strength rise within me that I never knew I had. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was living for them. Grace taught me how to make handmade bracelets and clay pots, which I sold in the nearby market. The first time I earned a few coins, I held them tight, whispering, We'll be okay. Sometimes I'd pass by luxury cars and wonder if Ryan ever thought about me, if he ever felt a pang of guilt seeing the rain. But I knew better than to hope. Hope had betrayed me once. I wouldn't let it hurt me again. My children grew quickly. Liam was calm, thoughtful, and protective. Lily was curious, brave, and full of laughter. They were my light in the darkest nights. Whenever I'd feel tears coming, they'd do something small, hold my hand, smile at me, and suddenly the pain became bearable. Grace became like a mother to me, guiding me, comforting me, reminding me that pain doesn't define who we become, it refines us. Sometimes she'd say, Child, the ones who break us are just messengers of destiny. They push us toward our real purpose. I didn't understand those words back then, but I held on to them. 5 years passed. My babies were now children, running barefoot in the fields, chasing butterflies, their laughter echoing through the air. I began working at a small craft store in the nearby town. The owner was kind and often said, You have talent, Anna. Your work carries emotion. I smiled, thinking of the long nights I spent making bracelets by candlelight, each one woven with silent prayers. Life wasn't easy, but it was peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt content. Then one afternoon, everything changed. I came home from the market to find Grace coughing violently. I rushed to her side, tears in my eyes, but she waved weakly and whispered, It's just my time, child. Don't cry. You have strength inside you, more than you know. That night, under the stars, she took her last breath holding my hand. I buried her behind the hut, under the old tree where she loved to sit. As I placed flowers on her grave, I whispered, Thank you for saving us. After that, it was just me and my twins. We struggled, but we kept moving forward. Every day, I told myself, one step at a time. Then one morning, a group of men arrived at our hut, wearing suits and carrying documents. We're from R&R Construction, one said. This land now belongs to our company. You have to vacate. My heart stopped. But this is our home, I cried. He shrugged. Talk to the owner. Maybe he'll show mercy. They handed me a card. When I saw the name, my blood ran cold. Ryan Reynolds, CEO. I stared at it, my fingers trembling. After all these years, fate had brought him back into my life. That night I couldn't sleep. Memories came flooding back. His smile, his betrayal, that night in the rain. I wanted to tear the card apart, but something inside me whispered, You have to face him. The next morning I dressed in my best, still simple but clean, and took the bus to the city. The skyscrapers looked even taller than before, casting long shadows over my memories. I walked into his company's grand building, feeling every eye turned toward me. My heart raced, but I kept my head high. When I reached the top floor, the receptionist asked, "Do you have an appointment?" I shook my head. "Tell Mr. Reynolds Anna is here." The name seemed to surprise her, but she made the call. Minutes later, the glass doors opened, and there he was. Ryan, older, more polished, but unmistakably him. For a moment, time froze. His eyes scanned me, confusion flickering across his face. "Anna?" he said softly, almost like he was seeing a ghost. I nodded, my hands trembling. "It's been a long time." He studied me, my plain dress, my tired eyes, my trembling voice, and I could see realization dawning in his gaze. "You're still alive?" he whispered, as if the thought had never occurred to him. I felt tears sting my eyes. "Yes, Ryan, I'm alive. And so are the children you left behind." His jaw tightened. "Children?" I took a deep breath. "Twins. Liam and Lily. They were born the night you drove past me on the road." His face went pale. "What are you saying?" he stammered. "You left me there, Ryan. I called out your name, but you didn't stop. You looked at me and still drove away." The room went silent. I saw guilt flash in his eyes, but he quickly masked it with coldness. "That's impossible. You must be mistaken." I shook my head, voice breaking. "No, I remember every second. You splashed mud on me and left me to die." For a moment his expression cracked, his lips parting as if to speak. But then he turned away. "Why are you here?" he asked flatly. "Your company is taking my home. I came to ask for time. I have nowhere else to go." He sighed, walking to the window. "Sign the papers. I'll give you compensation. Take the money and move on." My eyes filled with tears, but my voice was steady. "I don't want your money, Ryan. I just want you to know what you did." He turned, his face unreadable. "I don't have time for this." And with that, he walked out, leaving me standing in the office, shaking. As I left the building, I realized something painful. He had everything, yet still nothing. I had nothing, yet somehow I had everything that truly mattered. When I walked out of that glass tower, the city lights blurred through my tears. For a moment, I stood in the middle of the street, clutching the small photo of my twins I always carried in my pocket. I whispered to myself, "We'll survive again." I went home and hugged Liam and Lily tighter than ever before. They didn't understand why my eyes were red, but their little arms wrapped around my neck gave me all the strength I needed. Days passed, but I couldn't get that meeting out of my mind. Ryan's cold eyes haunted me, not just because of his cruelty, but because behind that hardness, I'd seen something. Something that looked like pain. I didn't want to care, yet I couldn't stop thinking about it. Why did he act like he didn't remember? Why did he seem shocked that I was alive? I told myself to forget, but fate had other plans. One evening, as I was packing bracelets for the market, someone knocked at the door. When I opened it, a well-dressed woman stood there holding an envelope. "Are you Anna?" she asked. I nodded, confused. "Mr. Reynolds asked me to deliver this." She handed me the envelope and walked away. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a check, a huge amount, more money than I had ever seen, and a small note that read, "For the children." My heart raced. Why now? What was he trying to do? Buy his forgiveness. I tore the check in half and threw it into the fire. "We're not for sale," I whispered. But that night I couldn't sleep. The image of his pale face when I mentioned the twins wouldn't leave my mind. Something didn't add up. I decided to find out the truth. The next morning, I took the bus to the city again, but instead of going to Ryan's office, I went to the hospital where I had given birth years ago. The old nurse who helped deliver my twins was still there. When she saw me, her eyes widened. "Anna, you survived?" I nodded. "Do you remember that night?" Her face turned pale. "How could I forget? You were in terrible shape. And there was something strange that night." I leaned forward. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "A man came in after you were taken to the emergency room. He looked panicked. Said his wife had gone missing. He showed your photo." My heart stopped. "Ryan?" She nodded slowly. Yes, I think that was his name. But before we could tell him you were here, someone from his company called. He left in a hurry, said there had been an accident involving his parents. He never came back. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Could it be? Had I been wrong all this time? Had fate played a cruel trick? The nurse continued. When you disappeared the next morning, everyone assumed you'd died. We didn't have your contact details. My head spun. If Ryan had come looking for me, why did he pretend not to know later? I needed answers. That night, I wrote him a letter and left it at his office, not asking for pity, but truth. If you ever loved me even once, I wrote, meet me tomorrow at the place where it all ended, the old bridge. The next evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I stood by the same roadside where I had given birth, clutching my shawl as the wind howled. My heart pounded as a black car pulled up. Ryan stepped out, his face shadowed by guilt. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said softly, I didn't know. I swallowed hard. Didn't know what, Ryan? That you left me to die? His voice cracked. Anna, I came back that night. I searched for you everywhere. The police told me there was no record of you. I thought you were gone. I stared at him, tears filling my eyes. Then why, when I stood in front of you, did you act like I was nothing? He looked away. Because when I saw you in my office, I didn't see the woman I lost. I saw the ghost of my mistakes. I've spent years building walls to forget the pain. I didn't know how to face you. His words shook me. For a moment, the anger inside me wavered, replaced by something heavier. Sorrow. You could have asked, I whispered. You could have looked closer. He nodded, voice breaking. I was a coward. I thought pushing you away would make the guilt easier. But it didn't. Every night I saw your face in my dreams, covered in rain, crying for help. And I couldn't escape it. Tears streamed down my face. For so long, I'd imagined him as a monster. But now, standing in front of him, I saw a broken man crushed under his own regret. Our children, I said softly, they deserve to know who you are. He looked at me, eyes glistening. Please, Anna, let me see them. Just once? I hesitated, torn between hate and compassion. They don't know you. To them, you're just a name that never came. He lowered his head. Then let me earn it. For the first time in years, silence between us wasn't filled with anger, but with something fragile. Truth. I turned to leave, but he called out, Anna! I never stopped loving you. I didn't look back, but tears fell freely, because deep down, I knew part of me had never stopped either. The next morning, I sat by the window, watching Liam and Lily play outside. Their laughter filled the air, soft and innocent, untouched by the storm of our past. My heart ached knowing they had grown up without ever knowing their father. After last night's confrontation, I hadn't been able to sleep. Ryan's words echoed in my mind. Let me earn it. I wanted to protect my children, yet a small part of me whispered that maybe they deserved to know the truth, no matter how painful it was. When I finally decided to tell them, my hands trembled. I knelt beside them and said softly, There's someone who wants to meet you. Someone who used to be very important to me. Liam looked up curiously. Who, Mama? I hesitated. Your father. Their eyes widened. We have a father? Lily asked, voice small and full of wonder. I nodded, trying to smile. Yes, my loves. And he wants to see you. That afternoon, we went to a small park near the river. Ryan was already there, standing under a tree, looking nervous and out of place in his expensive suit. When the twins saw him, they clung to me, unsure. I took their hands and whispered, It's okay. Ryan took a hesitant step forward. Hi, he said softly, kneeling down to their level. I'm Ryan. Liam studied him with cautious eyes. Are you the man who made Mama cry? The question hit like a blade. Ryan's voice broke. Yes, he whispered. I did. And I'm so sorry for that. Lily tilted her head. Then why are you here? Ryan's eyes filled with tears. Because I want to make it right. If you'll let me. For a long moment, the twins just stared at him. Then Liam took a small step forward and said, Mama says people can change. Ryan smiled weakly, tears slipping down his cheeks. She's right. He reached into his pocket and handed them each a small bracelet. I made these for you, he said. They looked at the bracelets, simple leather bands but beautifully crafted, and their faces softened. Slowly, they took them, and I watched something shift between them, the beginning of forgiveness. Over the next few weeks, Ryan began visiting often. He'd bring food, clothes, and sometimes toys, though I always reminded him, "They don't need gifts, Ryan. They need time." So he stayed. He played soccer with Liam, told stories to Lily, and helped me fix the leaking roof Grace used to curse at. For the first time in years, laughter filled our small home again. Yet part of me remained guarded. Could I really trust him? Or was this just guilt wearing the mask of love? Still, as days passed, I saw the sincerity in his eyes. Every time he looked at the twins, every time he helped me cook or walked them to school. Maybe people do change, I thought. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, Ryan and I sat outside watching the stars. I still remember our first night under this sky. He said quietly, "You said the stars looked like promises." I smiled faintly. "And you said promises were meant to be broken." He sighed. "I was wrong." I looked at him, really looked at him. The man who had once destroyed me, now sitting beside me, humbled, human, broken, yet trying. "We can't undo the past, Ryan," I said softly. "But maybe we can build something new." He nodded, eyes glistening. "If you'll let me." I didn't answer, but the silence between us spoke volumes. It was fragile, tentative, a beginning born from ruin. But fate wasn't done testing us. One afternoon, while Ryan was helping me carry clay pots to the market, a sleek black car stopped beside us. A woman stepped out, tall, elegant, with sharp eyes that cut like glass. She looked at me, then at Ryan, and smirked. "So it's true," she said coldly. "You found her." Ryan froze, his face draining of color. "Sophie," he whispered. The name sent a chill down my spine. She turned to me. "You must be Anna, the lost wife." Her voice dripped with venom. I frowned. "And you are?" She smiled thinly. "The woman who took care of Ryan when you disappeared. The one he was supposed to marry." My heart stopped. Ryan opened his mouth. "Sophie, don't—" But she cut him off. "He told me you were gone. That he searched for you. That he mourned you. But when his company started failing, he came running back here. Convenient timing, don't you think?" Her words stung like poison. "What are you saying?" I whispered. She crossed her arms. "He needs you, Anna. Your story. Your sympathy. It makes him look good. The billionaire who found his abandoned wife and children. A perfect redemption arc for the media." My vision blurred. "That's not true," Ryan said desperately, stepping closer. "She's lying." Sophie laughed bitterly. "Am I? Then why did your PR team contact me last week? Why did they ask me to stay quiet until the reunion is complete?" I looked at him, my heart racing. "Ryan, is this true?" He shook his head. "No, Anna, I swear—" But I saw the flicker of panic in his eyes. The same look he gave me years ago before leaving. My chest tightened. Tears welled up again. "I trusted you," I whispered. "Not again." He reached out, but I stepped back. "Leave, Ryan. I can't do this twice." As Sophie's car drove away, Ryan stood frozen, guilt and fear written all over his face. And I realized something terrifying. Sometimes people don't change. They just learn to hide their lies better. That night, as rain poured outside, I sat alone, staring at the small, flickering candle. The twins were asleep, their innocent breaths steady, unaware of the storm tearing through my heart. I had believed Ryan's return was fate, a chance to heal what was broken. But Sophie's words echoed in my mind like poison. "He needs your story, your sympathy." I wanted to believe she was lying, yet the doubt gnawed at me. I picked up the photo of Ryan with the twins, the one we had taken last week at the park, and whispered, "Was any of it real?" My tears fell onto the picture. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Ryan standing in the rain, soaked, eyes red from crying. "Anna, please," he begged. "Let me explain." I wanted to slam the door, but something in his voice stopped me. "5 minutes," I said coldly. He stepped inside, dripping water onto the floor. "What Sophie said, it's not the whole truth." I crossed my arms. "Then tell me everything." He took a deep breath. "Yes, my company is in trouble. Yes, my PR team thought telling our story could help rebuild my image. But that's not why I came back. I came because I found an old hospital record. Your name, the twins, everything. When I saw that file, something inside me broke. I realized you had been alive all this time, and I couldn't live with myself if I didn't make it right." His voice cracked, raw and trembling. "I told my team to prepare a press statement, but I never planned to use it." Sophie did. "She's been trying to take control of the company ever since I broke off the engagement." I stared at him, heart pounding. "Why should I believe you?" He took out his phone, scrolling through messages. "Here," he said, showing me emails from Sophie threatening him, blackmailing him with personal photos, using my story to ruin him if he didn't comply. I read them silently, my hands shaking. Every word was filled with hatred and manipulation. I looked up, tears stinging my eyes. "Why didn't you tell me before?" He sighed. "Because I thought I could fix it quietly. I didn't want to drag you or the kids into this mess." His voice softened. "Anna, I know I failed you once, but this time I'm here to stay. Not because I need you, but because I finally understand what love means." I turned away, overwhelmed. "You say that now, but love doesn't erase the past." He nodded slowly. "No, it doesn't. But it gives us a chance to write a different ending." His words lingered in the air. Outside, thunder rolled, shaking the fragile silence between us. Then, from behind, a small voice said, "Mama." I turned. Liam stood in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. "Why is Daddy crying?" Ryan knelt, pulling him close. "Because I hurt the people I love," he whispered. "But I'm trying to make it right." Liam looked at him quietly, then said, "Then stop crying and start fixing it." His innocent words pierced through the darkness like sunlight. I wiped my tears. "Maybe that's what we all need to do," I whispered. In the days that followed, Ryan took action. He confronted Sophie publicly, exposing her blackmail attempts. The media storm that followed destroyed her influence, but also forced Ryan to face his own past. He didn't hide. Instead, he stood before cameras and said, "Years ago, I abandoned the woman who loved me. I let pride and fear destroy my family. But life gave me a second chance, and I intend to spend it earning their forgiveness." His honesty shocked everyone. The story spread everywhere, not as a PR stunt, but as a lesson in humility. People began calling it the billionaire's redemption. But for me, the real redemption wasn't in headlines. It was in small moments. Ryan walking the twins to school, helping me repair the old fence, sitting beside me under the stars, not as a savior, but as an equal. Slowly, the bitterness inside me began to fade. Forgiveness didn't happen overnight. It came in quiet waves, washing over old wounds, softening what once felt impossible. One evening, as the sunset painted the sky gold, Ryan turned to me and said, "Do you think we can ever start over?" I looked at the twins playing nearby, their laughter filling the air. "Maybe we already have," I said softly. Time passed, and the pain that once defined us became a memory, not forgotten, but transformed. We rebuilt our lives, not as the people we once were, but as the family we had become. And though scars remained, they no longer hurt. They reminded us of what we survived. On Grace's death anniversary, I visited her grave with the twins. As I placed fresh flowers, I whispered, "You were right, Grace. Pain doesn't define us. It refines us." The wind rustled through the trees, almost like she was smiling from somewhere beyond. That night, as I watched the stars, I thought about everything we'd endured. The love, the betrayal, the loss, the forgiveness. And I realized, life isn't about avoiding storms. It's about learning to stand in the rain, holding the hands of those who stayed. Because sometimes the road that begins with pain ends in peace.